Thanks so much, Deanna, and thanks everyone for having me. I've never been to Ottawa before. This is my first time here. So when Deanna wrote and invited me, I was like, I could go there. It could be an interesting place to go. So thank you so much for having me. I get kind of nervous whenever I read. So if I'm acting a little nervous, it's because I'm nervous, and you'll all forgive me for that. So I am going to read to you from my book, The Lease. Deanna talked about it, so I don't need to talk about that very much. I'll get right into it. So when you're working in the oil field, you spend a lot of your time traveling, and a lot of your time, I've been teaching. I just got back to teaching this week, so whenever one of my students comes into the room, I go like, "Hi, how are you?" And I just got ready to do that, and then I realized it would be a real jerk move, so I didn't. Back to the poem. They send you all over the place, and normally you're staying in these kind of like rundown small hotels and motels and everything. And one time they told me, "We're going to send you to this ranch. So you're going to go and stay at the ranch," and I was really excited. So this is a poem about the ranch, and it's called The Ranch. You sleep on stacked mattresses, and mice run the floor, biting at toes. You wake, set traps, and stack the mattresses higher still. This is old Sask summer. Flax and mustard paint the horizon the bright yellow color of sun you find in children's pictures, and always the sky is just another dead prairie above you. Everything you remember lives inside the chicken farm homestead with its back-broken frame and that reek of old water sitting still. At night, the house breathes with open windows, swells at the seams. At sunrise, it exhales a dust so fine you think of bull hearts, dried and ground. When it's gutted of furniture, you find imprints in the carpet, 4 beds, 2 dressers, a shelf. And from those years when no one kept it, from before the oil and the oilman came, the mark where the deer walked in, lay down, and died. So that was the ranch. And that's all true. We discovered later that there had been a dead deer in the living room where most of our mattresses were set up. This next poem is called The Tank. Squats 3 days at a time in white-brown mud that sticks and sucks like a mouth against everything it touches. The long battle, the bit by bit of urging steel to the center of the earth. You dream of sinking, past the slow riot of oil, sand, and stone, to the bottom of the prairie shield. Rig out, the pylons packed, extinguishers strapped, the guy wires of the stack plucked, swing loose again against the sky. Everything ends, briefly, and the iron world moves on. Only the tire ruts are left, 6 inches deep, wet with water and an oil sheen, and even these are eaten over by wheat and flax and mustard seed. No mark survives this place. You too will yield to unmemory. Give everything you are in 3-day pieces. Watch the gypsy iron move. Follow its commands. Tend the rusted steel like a shepherd. So some of these poems are not family friendly. And this will be the first one like that, and there will be a few more. But Deanna has told me to just read whatever I come across, so I'm going to go ahead with that. This one's called Washoe. Across the field, you can see a farm girl who might be pretty, stripped down and out of her father's coveralls. Might get you hard if she wasn't hidden so well. Kinda gets you hard anyway. As she climbs the tractor, her legs bouncing against the sides of her loose rubber boots. Remember where you came from? What the girls were like there? Now open the fucking well and walk the pipe like a healer, your ungloved palm hovering over the unions. She's in the tractor now, over there, radio on, windows cracked, texting a guy from school while you hit the first sand-off of the day. Ball frack, zone 2. And Bill tells you, right now, down below, there's enough nitrogen, sand, and shit to shoot one of those fat fuck 1,000-pounders from TV right the fuck at his bed, so open that bastard slow. And then, never mind. And he does it himself. The thin pipe rattles, your lightest pipe, the stuff you solo around the lease on your shoulder. The whole line kicks, and standing beside the flowback tank, the noise is older than anything you've ever heard, like you've always been hearing it and just now became aware. The first time you drove a car, the engine kicked, sounded like a coil cleanout, a blowdown, a frack, a bleed-off. When you learned to knead dough, your father's hands, palms over your hands, there was a man outside punching holes in the earth, making your mother's windows buzz and rattle. Does the farm girl hear this over there in the tractor cab? Does she know it's you? Near the end where the steel turns 90 degrees, goes straight up, some burr inside catches, peels off, and the sand cuts through the pipe and into the air. But your hands, they're already in an X above your head when you remember the sign for shut the fucking well. So, a number of the poems in the book are these kind of portrait poems, which I wrote about people, you know, who I might have worked with or who I met, or some amalgamation of people who I worked with or who I met. And me, in the writing process, I just used everybody's name. You're not supposed to do this. And so Coach House, my wise publisher, had me change these names. So this poem is named Stephen, but what I have been doing, and I will do tonight, is tell you that this poem is actually named Lawrence. So Lawrence, or Stephen, loves his kids, hates their moms, wears wife beaters like someone slapped a paintbrush down his chest, left him stained, white striped and dirty. His belly seems swollen, reaches from his skinny frame so that when he falls into a chair, he looks always like he's been feasting. All he eats are 7-Eleven frozens, heated and rushed to his mouth on plastic. He breaks the cardboard flat at the corners, licks it clean. Stephen will tell you he ran with gangs in Calgary and has some native in him. Everyone from Sask does. His truck blares Cor Blund. He brings you whiskey in a coffee pot to drink as he drives. And Lawrence drinks while he drives, too. You ask your father what a lease is. And he tells you about the geese beyond the aqueduct, how they turn the sky gray, how as a teen he never put his gun away dirty. You remember the blue steel cleaner, the sound of a rag drawn through a barrel, and still you catch the scent of solvent rising from buried cells that ruled you as a boy. The lease is meaningless, a square paced first by seismic workers, and then your father, and then by every other man you know. But you've always pulled meaning from nothing, and when he leads you to an empty field, you tear grass in fistfuls, read the roots like a will. So I'm gonna read you another one of these portrait poems. I'm not gonna tell you the real name this time because I feel more tender toward this poor person who I wrote a poem about than I do toward Lawrence. So. This one is called Renee. In the field, Renee wore a pink bra, and the zipper on her coveralls bounced just below her belly button. In the office, she was leggings, work boots, and tight shirts. You bitched, and you carried her pipe, stared at her tits and imagined her sweaty and quiet, smoothing your skin like bed sheets with her hands. At the bar, they ate shots of whiskey from between her legs, and you watched, trying to be a man who thinks of a girlfriend and not Renee. Until Jared's big right hand, the broken one, just 2 fingers and a thumb, grabs your hair, drives your chin to her thighs. Then the whiskey sting as the glass tears your lip, your watering eyes, and Renee dabbing blood from her skirt. So probably we've all had the experience of the kind of first day at a new job or the orientation day or something like that. And you've got to go and you've got to do all of your training and your WINIS and your safety training and everything like that. And in the oil field, there is a reasonable amount more safety training than there would be otherwise. And this is a poem about that day where you spend the whole day doing that. It's called Remember Charlie. In the back room of the shop, You spend a day with Wemyss and Piper Alpha and a videotape of Charlie, burned up. When someday you want to roll up the sleeves of your coveralls, let your bare wrists touch the breeze, risk the gas in the air. They want you to remember him. How he pulls his red sweater up his arms, and how you will always see the pale skin as darker and redder than the yawning mouths of the dogs who terrorized your youth. The video finishes, the VCR gears click, the tape rewinds for the next guy. And you start guessing at appearance fees, video royalties. Later, you and the boys will bargain in skin percentage, trade burns or breaks, bulk sell fingers for a better deal. You all figure you'd cook half your body, the lower half, for an even million. When Joel's wife shows up for his paycheck a few weeks later, and when you watch the half-circle, barrel-edged nub of his wrist forget itself and grasp for a beer, you find yourself tuned to every clash of steel on steel. You see snakes shedding skin in hospital beds. You remember Charlie, and you begin to wait. This is called Oilfield Love Poem, and this is the first poem that I wrote that would end up being a part of this collection. Town is his wife, his daughter, Elizabeth. Out here is just pussy. Shower, shave, condoms, call home, good night, I love you. You hear big hands on the door, the sway of the housekeeping sign. Listen with closed eyes to the quiet, liquored fucking one bed over. You hear the wake-up call, an engine choked from sleep, the whistle of the gas and the night shift pulling up. His phone, good night, I love you. And you love her too, like she's the last woman not in the patch. I'm becoming parched. This next one is called Service Rig. Half these men are boys, like you are, but yell so loud the cracks in their voices are hard to catch. The other half, giants, older than the rig itself. They knew this oil before it was black. A bare chest here is thin and folded into itself 1,000 times. You've never seen them take the head off the pump jack. It's clean in the dirt when you arrive. But you get to see the service rig rising. The tongs turn on. Watch the youngest man on crew climb the derrick and stand, harnessed, coveralls dropped from his chest and tied with the sleeves around his waist. Up where no one can yell at him to zip up, no one can tell him to remember Charlie, where he can feel the prairie wind beating his chest like the skinny fists of a woman who almost wants him to let her go. So not everything in here is true. And I did a reading maybe two months ago where for the first time I was reading to members of my family. And I could see, just before the reading, I was back home in Prince Edward Island where I'm from, and this very old woman came up to me and she was like kind of stooped over and she said, I knew your grandmother very well. And I still talk to her out in Alberta and we phone once a month or something. And so I felt like it was really important before I did that reading to say like, I have not done all of the things that I might say that I do in here, but I will give you the same disclaimer just in case one of you knows my grandmother. This is another portrait poem called Kelsey. This girl was supposed to be Stephen's. When after a few drinks she starts kissing you, he tells you to fuck off and leaves, but comes back later while she's pissing and asks if you will share. Just home for the summer, she's suspicious, thinks the green-bound heaney is your way of tricking girls into bed. After 2 months in this motel room, it's stranger to see someone touching your things than to feel her fingers curl against your shoulder, on the left side where the muscles tore when Lawrence dropped his end of the pipe. A ball player, hardball, national level, you wish she would believe that you really just want to talk and kiss a little. And if she wants her body felt, or if she wants to touch your dick, that's fine. but you mostly just want to talk. She says her school is down in Texas, Christian too, but she goes there more for baseball than Jesus. They won't let boys inside her dorm, and maybe that's why she has to leave so fast when you take her hand in your palm and press them both against your crutch. You wonder if you can get out before her, lock the door behind you and run home to her house, fall asleep in her bed. You will wake to bacon and eggs, a family breakfast where everyone mistakes you for Kelsey. You will cuddle with her sisters, and they'll pretend you aren't half hard against their backs. Her father will kiss your forehead, call you darling, and help you practice pitching in the backyard. And a lifetime behind you, a girl paces the motel room, pulls strips of callus from her heels, scalds her hands in the bathroom sink, sits with her back against the door before turning and chipping half her fingernails on the knob. Anything to try and wake her from your life. So one of the worst things that can happen when you're in the oil field is that you can have what's called a blowout. A blowout is when you lose control of the well entirely, and that big metal chunk that normally keeps everything under control and under pressure is no longer working, and everything is just flying up into the air. Usually it's on fire. This is particularly bad if you're dealing with sour gas, or this poisonous gas that it will kind of just kill you if you breathe it. This poem is called Newell, and it's about driving home and kind of seeing the smoke off in the distance. Newell. You can see the smoke by Vauxhall. A short day, a shallow frack. You reach home but keep driving, through Brooks, past the patch motels, to Newell and its oil-smudged sky. As a child, you painted your face this color, ash from driftwood burnt on the beach, jellyfish drifting upside down, charting dead angles, the sand against your stings. A blowout. They both guess. Mike in back, King cab, and the soup driving. It's all sour too. You hit a barricade a kilometer out, firemaster trucks everywhere, the campground evacuated. 2 dead when the stabbing valve went. The pipe swung so fast it took one guy's face clean off. But you only know this later. On that day, you drive with your asses off the leather, so close to yourselves, toes curling after something solid, a foothold inside your steel-toed boots. Every year in the oil field, spring will come, like it does everywhere, and all of the snow will melt, and for that period, everything just kind of shuts down, at least in southern Alberta, Saskatchewan. It's called Breakup. And that's the name of this poem. Men lose their trucks in April, cave by May and pump gas at 10 an hour. The snow melts, the earth soaks to mud too thick for rigs to move. The sky is a leaky roof, and they dream of catching rain in buckets. Cocaine turns to codeine, cash bleeds out like a well. Their clothes stink, they eat the dollar menu, bitch about road bans. Some even go to Lakeside, work the killing floor, shave beef from bodies hung on hooks and belts, run the gun, avoid the eyes. The single-filed flesh of thousands sluices through the grated floor, all until the sun batters the earth to grit again. So I'm just going to read 2 more. In the last few readings that I've done, there have been like lots of children around and stuff, so I've chosen different poems than I'm choosing tonight, and that might be why you're getting all of these these grittier poems, because I'm trying to read something new. So sorry in advance for all of these. This last one is called second last one is called Whore to Your Door. They slip flyers under every windshield wiper, on every truck, at every hotel in town. There is always coke. His or hers. Sometimes he snorts so much he can't get hard. So she just talks to him, tells him everything's fine. It's a different kind of lying, but that's all he really wanted anyway. Her finger is stained with gloss the color of her lips, and her heart's not gold, but made of paper mache, a grade 3 origami crane folded flat inside her purse. While she sits on the bed in his hotel room, he can't curse, or rough his hands along her body, and he can't fuck her till she cries, like he bragged to you he would. Faint music plays from her iPod on the table, and at 2:30 in the afternoon, he reads the room as midnight, her mouth a sheet pinned over the windows. And this is the last poem in the book and the last one that I'll read. It's called Someday. You will lie about these men, cut their rounded edges straight, stretch their lives to simple violence. Each brother you hated, every father you found, you turn them over in the end. And you will make yourself apart, as if you were ever more than trying, than faking, lurking. As if, still tethered to the womb, you didn't just conjure each of them with that first and hungry gasp you let slip into the world. As if you've ever stopped your howling. Thank you very much.